first of all, thank you very much for joining us in this room today. Afternoon, I'm Balu Ertl from Brainstorm from Hungary, and we brought you a very interesting topic, hopefully interesting topic, and soon you will see that why we believe that it can be interesting for you. This is not the interesting part yet, just to make sure that you have some vision on my background. I'm a board member of Hungarian Drupal Association, and also I'm leading the localization work group for a couple of years ago. And I joined the Drupal ecosystem back in the 80s when it was versioned like 4.7.x. I don't remember that much, I have to admit. It was just something light blue admin interface. So I just believed that that was Drupal and not WordPress or something else. So actually, seriously, I started to work with Drupal on the version 6, I believe. And since then, I still feeling love to this community by many different reasons. And today, I work for Brainstorm as a Drupal consultant and project manager by the day, and in my spare time I try to learn to get back to coding and be a front-end developer one day. So that's my background briefly. And the interesting topic, which starts now, is a case study. We start with a case study, and at the end you will see that's how we formed the product from this friendship between Tieto and Brainstorm. And first of all, just a question: who knows who is Tieto? Is anyone? Okay, one raised hands. That's good. This is one of the biggest Scandinavian IT enterprise with more than 13,000 employees around the world. Providing IT services and consultancy more than 5 continents, or all the 5 continents, and we were chosen to deliver them websites and web applications. Half a dozen of separate sites we usually build and maintain for them. This one that I will talk about is just one among of them. So first of all, that we were very happy when we met with Tieto, that we can say that it's the archetype of being an ideal client. Later on, you will see that why we really believe this, because they allow us to do so awesome things, and actually they pay it to contribute back to Drupal.org, and it's a requirement from them to make a contribution, a module, and not keep anything on behind our walls. And before our friendship started, we proven that we can deliver these professional services. So let's see that how and why. The story started in 2015 when we met with Ruben Tejero in the Drupalathon event, and he's an employee of this company, and we just started to discuss that what services we can work together, and this is how we founded this cooperation. Drupalathon, as you may probably heard about it, it's a summer camp for Drupalistas for 3 years ago. This year it will be held also on the shoreline of the biggest warm water lake of Europe. So the tickets are still available. If you are interested in to do something coding on a ship in the middle of the lake, then the option is still available. But back to the serious topic. Let's take a look on what was the challenge actually about. They decided that the Microsoft Episerver license fee somehow can return in different ways. So they started to move around and check that what other possibilities they have to run such a marketing portal. And as you know, that Drupal 8 can be a kind of enterprise CMS. So it was not a question that we will tinker about with this, this software. And first of all, we started with paragraphs, and we delivered a prototype just put together that how it may look like, and that was looking promising, but not the final. So we had the chance to start a pilot project when we put together an already existing campaign page, a landing page for them. At this point, maybe we can stop for a second and just bring our mind on the same page, that the landing page, what we mean is probably you know when a page has horizontal sections under each other, so the user, the visitor can navigate vertically down to the bottom and up and see different content types under each other. And this is, can be used for AdWords campaigns to land the user who makes the conversion. And this is what we call a campaign page. We can say landing page as well if it's more comfortable. And after this pilot project just seemed to work, then they decided that, okay, let's build this factory platform. Just to make sure that you understand that why it was really exciting for us, because the requirements were not a few, but very important. First of all, the flexibility was mandatory. That's in the terms of they really wanted to stick together with the company style guides. They have a wide design team, an internal design department, including UX experts as well, and they had very strict vision that how a site should work in Tieto colors. So of course we just needed to follow these guidelines. They wanted to make it reusable, so every part, every modules that we put into this Drupal site can be shared with other sites that even they run behind walls in their intranets. So everything can be returning multiple times, not only on one site. Security was an issue because they have a contracted third-party auditor who wanted to check the source code, what we deliver them. Future-proofing is still needed, that they want to make sure that in a couple of years in front of us, it will still be work, and of course it will be easy to maintain. It's mostly a big help for us that we don't need to do extra tricky stuff, because we can maintain it for years in the future. And even if it's a big company, but the cost is also an important thing for them, so it doesn't mean that they have unlimited financial possibilities. So they really wanted to see that whether it returns versus the price or not really. And so let's see that how we replied to these requirements. The flexibility was quite easy to solve, because we just added CSS styles that the editors can create content only by selected limited options, but still useful for them to put together their message. And they cannot do some pink and any special non-Tieto colorish thing to do together, because they just can use the 4 officially selected Tieto colors, and that's all. If you want something, then you can knock on the door of the design department and require more colors, but on the editing interface it's quite limited, so it serves your fast pace of working, that you don't need to design so much variations. Reusable components was also an issue, if you remember, that we did no custom features. Everything that we coded is provided back, contributed back to Drupal.org. And high security standards is just like the Drupal security terms. And as a contributional module, the security team also reviews our code. And Drupal 8 is more than 1 year old, so we can say that it's quite mature to be a good foundation of future-proof solutions. And low maintenance cost can be also reached by involving the community members to download our module, test it, and report back issues. Even sometimes they send patches, so that's the cherry on the top of the cake. And of course, no license fees, so that they save a lot on Microsoft Episerver license fees. And that was the scope that we started this project. We decided that we want to leave the creative stuff to the creative people and leave the marketing people create and publish content. This is what they can do the best, so don't disturb them, just let them do their work and get to the market quickly, deliver the solution in a couple of months, and finally we put together a lightweight landing page factory. But it seems that it's quite easy, and we decided that it's just ad hoc, and it seemed a good idea, but actually not that was the situation, because we performed a very intensive research before we decided that maybe that can be the way for them. I know that mostly you are developers, am I right? Who is not techie people? Just okay, there are some, but maybe this can be interesting for you. But for the developers, I can promise that this UX part will not that long, just a few slides, but can help you to understand better that what was before this project. In 6 points, we just ran through on these points that how we gain information on the market and how we formed the final the final lookout and feel of how it should look like. Yes, we were aware of that we are not the first one inventing the wheel. There were a lot of big players still on the market. You can see some big numbers just to base of comparison. And to be honest, we will not want to compete with them. That would be nonsense. We want to do something somehow different. We take a bit narrow the scope, and then we investigated only the one-page site creator services, which is dedicatedly made for people just put together one page and no navigation, no other URL paths, just one page, just put your content, insert some images, some YouTube videos, and that's all. So this is the list of such a service providers, and there are even more specialized site creator services. For example, you can see organizing events, or Shopify is one of the best known for e-commerce. And as you know the phrase, there's a module for that, for sure. It was the same for us as well. Yes, there were modules for that already in Drupal.org, and later on this presentation we will take a look on how we differentiate from them. So just a quick overview of user interfaces that we take a look on. Dozens, and they have so many differences. But here you can see a clearer vision that this is somehow what we can say that Drupal core introduced the in-place edit. This is somehow what they want to implement as well. You can recognize some Photoshop-like toolbars on the right, and using these floating pop-ups and modal windows to put every small detailed configuration of how you want your site to look like. That's their way, but we were not really convinced that this is what we want to do. Just a quick overview. It's a sentence. Oh, okay, the sound is not properly here, but anyway, the guy is actually an actor. I really believe that he's an actor and not taking serious what he says. But it's just a comedy on that's what they believe on developers and what they want to provide for end users. To put every CSS property just to adjustable, adding colors, and so many things, and stopping this on the same administration interface. So this is their way, which we did not believe to follow. Now I just can go back, if not then like this, and here we go. And okay, just once back, sorry. Okay, on the next slide, okay, close this. Yes, finally. So we investigated not only the admin interfaces, but the final product that you can achieve using these services. Just a short animation of how they can look like differently. But if you take a closer look on these three examples, do you see any major difference between them by the term of layout? Text, image, image, text, image, text, text, image. And it's three different designs, but the layout is the same. So that leads us to the observation that probably what users need are some predefined layout arrangements that they don't need to hesitate that how should I float this div to the left side, and how can I float the text under the image, and oh, it just not looks like if I resize the viewport and whatever. It's not the marketer's job. They just need sections that they can put after each other, and the pages actually just build it up and don't care about the details. So, for example, on the first, you can see a header image, which can be even a motion picture, some video on the background, which is very popular effect nowadays. On the second paragraph type, you can see that this is the previous example, image on the left, and you can change the sizes. You can add some columns if you have shorter pieces of text or just images that you can adjust the number of the columns, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You can insert decoration of images, which has actually not that much message, just only decorating your page. If you have longer text, longer paragraphs, then you can put simple text type. Then you can separate your sections with background images, which has a parallax effect already encoded in the background. So you just need to check checkbox, and parallax is enabled and it's working. Of course, you can add some links to your social networks. The icon of the social network is automatically loaded by the domain, so you don't need to care of how to upload this twitter.png and whatever. Forms at the end of the campaign page where they can perform their interaction, just submit their data. And of course, adding some maps based on leaflet with OpenStreetMap or Google Maps, showing that multiple locations. For example, here will be the conference event place, and here is your hotel, so they can see on one page easily that, okay, this is the place of the hotel, and this is the venue of the event. So, and some others on the site you can see. So that was the basic idea.
So those are the paragraph types?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. It's very good. They are paragraph types. And later you will see that why it was very important that we built it on top of paragraphs. And just before you just judge us that they took out the possibilities from their hands, it's not the truth, because basically we promote uniqueness. Internet should be as diverse as possible. But in certain situations, like now, when the corporate identity sticks the editors to be coherent visually, then yes, you need to take out the uniqueness from the hands of the editors and just make their work more effective. So the next thing that this research was investigated is the user experience of Drupal 8. You can see that's 7. the theme, the 7, and many people probably already heard, who heard already some complaints about the 7th theme, the user experience of the Drupal. When you deliver a site to the client and they just log in and you've proven that you can put together views. It's quite easy. You can just click together views. You mean this messed up page with so many drop buttons? No, I saw it once. Thanks. Can you do this for me, please? Yeah, thanks. So many times we just see this from the clients when they talk about the 7th theme. So we had the fortune that Tieto decided allocated budget to add an admin theme to their project. That's very, very unique, and I haven't heard yet some other projects yet where money was actually allocated to develop. So here I just prepared you this UX pin. Actually, not I prepared, it's the work of our designer, Balu. I just prepared the tab in my browser. So this is a working prototype that you can click and see that how it would look and work in the future. So that's a future plan, how we imagine that maybe it can be combined together in place edit maybe in the future, or arranging the sections up and down easily. And you know, it's not the same as paragraph provides you these sections with these 4-way arrows, or just this toggle to switch on and off the node, the entity node number. That's how to arrange pages. We just wanted to make it easier that they can just click up and down. So that was the basic idea. And also they can define menus. Later we will return back to this topic. And still, this is the regular node edit pages information. As you can see, some meta tags and URL paths and so on and so on. So that was the working prototype that we delivered. And yes, exactly. Oh, I need. Oops, now I saw my comments. But it's okay. So, on the far side, you can see that the documentation that we received from the design department, it's actually just simply text with bullet points describing that how they imagine the Tieto visuality should look like. And in that side, you can see the comparison between them, how we translated to the language of CSS and web design. And that was quite easy to have such a specific scope. So we didn't wanted to guess anything, because that was actually just given properly at how it should look like. And this is the reason why we call this as factory, because the site went live in 3 months, I think 3 or half a year. Half a year, it's better to say. And today more than 100 nodes are created with this method, and it's very also worth to mention that dozens of editors coming and editing these pages. So it's not only one person who knows by mind that which content is what, but even they pay for a third-party marketing communication agency to log into their site and update and create a new content. So we can say that this is actually working. That was a part of the UX. Take a deep breath. It's over. Does anyone have a question, maybe regarding this research or this decision or this path, this vision that we started? No questions yet, so maybe later.
Are these? I'm trying to understand why they chose Drupal for this. Are they, so are these microsites, each one a node, and are they microsites or are they simply pages, or what are they? Is it different brands or something, or
Okay.
is it?
The question was about it, that how we imagine these campaign pages, landing pages, and what they are actually about, right?
Yeah.
Then I can show you some examples because they are totally public, so you can just make some extra audience for their pages, and it definitely not harm their policies. So, for example, this is the one most frequently referred. It's one of their hosting service, which is they call it OneCloud. Anyway, it's just a fantasy name. And as you can see, this is a header, as I mentioned, with this slanted edge design. A CTA button, because it's important that every section should have some interaction. It can fly on the side, so just the visitor cannot miss it. And this is the left text and right image, or its column types. They already have some predefined types that they can decide that it should be inverted, color, background, white text, and also with a green CTA button, call to action, and some decoration of image. And this is the background, as I mentioned. That's how we can separate with some titles, with some designable backgrounds, the two parts, columns, little boxes to break up your long content into more smaller, digestible pieces of information, so not just load the visitor with huge paragraphs, just make it easy to understand and follow the by eyes. CTA is everywhere, and at the bottom probably we will see some links, and yeah, and here is a form which is also paragraph type, so the visitors can fill it up. If I would log in with LinkedIn, it's not our feature, it's their solution, so I'm not promoting this now. You can just see that they inserted this LinkedIn third party. And we also have this feature that we can crop the images with a circle. So they don't need to Photoshop it, wait for the designer, pinging them, hey, can you send me the contact images? This page has to be live today, and whatever. No, he just uploads the business portrait of the person and choosing this circle, and the CSS does the job for them. So actually that's an example. And of course the menu just jumps to the given services, applying anchors in the URL paths. So it's very important that in AdWords campaigns you can definitely target the audience to the right section, so they don't need to scroll up and down. So for your question, this is how this example campaigns.
So the client needed many one-pagers like that for campaigns that they could do quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't mind, I would not go deeper in other examples, but Google is your best friend. If you just search for this domain, this subdomain campaigns, definitely will see a lot of them already published.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, but anyway, thanks for the question. That's good. Actually, I will put in my slideshow. So let's back to the backend, because I assume that we are developers. As I mentioned at the beginning, that all these modules that we added, that we use, should somehow profitable, should be offered for the community members as well. Here is the list of some of the modules that we contributed during this project, and some others from the last 3 months. And please forgive me to bragging about some other modules, just to mention the complete view. So actually at Brainstorm we are really happy that we have such a credits, And we really suggest for others as well to follow this manner, contribute back as much as your client allows you. And that was not easy at the same time. Who has also contribution and module maintaining on Drupal.org? Even personally as a hobby, or even by your employer as your developer shop? One? Okay, others not yet, but maybe tomorrow. So maintaining a module on Drupal.org has advantages and challenges at the same time. For example, the biggest that you have a clear vision of what your client wants from you. They have a scope, they have a deadline, they have a budget. You have a vision that your solution should work like this, should be capable of doing that one, but not to be able to do that one, and be different from the third one, and so on and so on. You have a clear vision. And then some feature request comes on issue queue. Hey guys, have you ever thought about that? No, not yet. Maybe later. Thanks for asking. So it's very hard to balance that what your client actually pays you and what is inside of your vision for the product, and what are the other ways, very valuable and important feature requests, because this is how the Drupal community works since 15 years ago, that some ideas always pops up, and sometimes you need to say no. Maybe you can leave it for the next branch, for the next version, or maybe sometimes they just fork your project and start on their own, and it's totally okay. We have nothing bad with it, just accept it. This is how open source development works. And yes, oh okay, I think that you get the meaning. So finally we were quite happy when our first beta was released, and actually we are really working on the 2.x branch, which is really in the end of the pipe. So hopefully in the next week, if you watch the project, then you can see that when it will be released with some new refactoring and better features. And as I promised earlier, then let's run through the competitors inside of the Drupal economy. The first of all that we take a look on was tags. Do you know it? Have you tried it yet? Maybe on simple test or just on local instance? Not yet. It's a very interesting module. It's also somehow puts together content in some vertical organization. To be honest, I have to admit that I have not yet tested, tried. So I just have some reviews read on it. And I'm sorry, just one important thing that I forgot to mention. Why we not went with stats? Because we needed the workflow organization based on the revision support. So you can imagine that when 10 or 20 editors coming and logging in and changing, and some publishers are just reviewing and finally put a stamp that okay, that can be published. Some are rejected, sending back to the editors, please fix the typos and so on and so on. So many people are editing, working on the same node. We need to have some revision tracking to see that who and when edited what on this node. So that was a mandatory filter for us that this module should do somehow revision support. The second was breaks, which is quite close to having revision support, but it's really heavily based on ECK, which, as far as I know, it does not fully support yet. So it's a half-baked solution. But other ways with breaks, you can manage paragraph types already. So this can be somehow be an alternative to the paragraphs. And Panelizer. Panelizer is great, but being great means it has a lot of features with very wide functionality, and therefore its user interface is quite complex. And we just really didn't believe that this user interface can be simplified as easily for our editors to succeed on this UI. So we just left it, skipped it, and went further, moved forward, and we arrived to paragraphs. Because it uses entity reference revisions, and it's a very stable foundation already to serve for bootstrap paragraphs, for example, or paragraphs collection. These two other modules building on the top of paragraphs. So, okay, we started to experiment with paragraphs, and just one thing that, yeah, it's just a story. Who knows that who invented the radio? You know, the transmitting variable signal by radio waves. Have you heard the story of that was not actually surely invented by Marconi, by some other people around the globe, has patented some similar ideas in a very short period of time. So somehow this, if you believe in memes and whatever, you know, just the human thoughts just sharing around the globe, who knows? So after we published Buried on Drupal.org, in a very short period of time, the landing page framework just appeared, which is was quite close to our solution. So take a look on the comparison, that's how it looks different. And here you can see that by 5 or 6 viewpoints. The first is what paragraph types does it include by out of the box, text and image-based paragraphs, and the very similar on Buried as well. But we have some extra as well. We embedding videos, Marketo, you know this third-party proprietary marketing software called Marketo. You can easily integrate it with Buried, and also with locations, as I mentioned, adding fields easily show up on a map. How to support the view modes of Drupal core? Landing page framework actually supports, but on a custom implementation, it's not easy to hack into if you want to change. We also support what we relied on the view mode selector contrib module, because we really believe that bringing in some others work can just be beneficial for everyone. So instead of doing something already existing, if you can reuse some components, then reuse it, and everyone will benefit from using their solutions multiple times. Also, customizing the CSS styling. Of course, you can do the landing page framework, but it's also somehow a custom implementation. But similarly as the previous one, for this purpose, we rely on classic paragraphs because it's already there, it's already tested, some others are working on it, and why not build in something which is already there and put together what can be done. So, previewing paragraphs. When you edit such a long page as you see, remember the example containing, for example, 10 sections. If you want to change something, then it would be easy to just take a look at, oh, wait. Will this text fit properly between the video? Okay, let's take a preview. So it's a very important feature that before the node submit, they can just make sure with a preview on the same node edit page, that how it will be rendered in the end. And this is what we use with paragraphs previewer contrib module. Let's mention some edit features. Landing page frameworks experiments with the Geyser UI. Have you ever heard about this Geyser? Not yet. It's quite similar, let's say, like inline edit of Drupal core. It has some differences, but I'm not I'm not knowing them that deep to being able to compare properly. So just let's say that it's similar to in-place edit. But on the other side, in Buried, we edit the menu support, remember this horizontal menu items that they can jump to the sections. We rely on GS libraries for smooth scrolling during the page. Of course, the parallax effect is also based on third-party library. So we put together almost as much as we could from others. And automated tests, which is a very sexy thing for me, we included with varied PHP unit tests, so you can make sure that it's working before adding to the final. And as a big extra feature, we just wanted to make it more product-like. We made a submodule for demo content. Because we really believe that when someone downloads something from Drupal.org, such a strict vision that Varied has, that it's a product, then why not have a module that they can just turn on and already have a content generated, scrolling through, and seeing that's how it can look like from inside. And of course, this video is very, very eye-catching. I could watch it for hours, but
what is it? Do you know?
But take a look on. Just prepare it here for you. So actually, as you can see on the URL bar, there's the same. Now I'm logged in, and I can demonstrate you how the edit works of the same demo content. So, of course, here we have the menus. You can add this frame around if you want to highlight something that it's very important menu. Please catch your eye, click this simplify section, then you can just add this frame around, only with a tick. And here comes the sections. As Michael mentioned, to say properly the paragraph types. So I can say that let's look on the header, and here is an anchor that we use on top of the menu. Some title, secondary title, index, and call to action button, where it should point to the background image. You can see that it's an MP4 video, we enable the paragraph effects, and so on and so on. So let's see that if you can see here the preview is the normal Drupal core model window, so you can see that how your text will fit with the button on this image. And on the sidebar is just the regular Drupal core edit pages, so nothing special. Special happens inside of the sections. And on the bottom of the page, here are the icons that you remember on the previous slides. And other that I not mentioned is the poll. It was not on my slides, and I think that's almost the same. Okay, so and here is the same options as probably you have for the Drupal sites. And this is part of the module. Even the MP4 video image is in the Git repository, so when people just download, then it will work on their machine as well, and they can easily try it out on their own how it works. Please. Yes, the paragraphs module.
Okay. Only the name of the module.
Yeah, paragraphs. Okay. Yes. And as many module maintainers on the internet, we have also future plans where we want to drive our ship in the future. One very important request is to have a custom domain per page, because it just have a better SEO performance. Also, if you have different subdomains, then of course want to have different Google Analytics tracking codes. And you want to file uploads similarly as we did the video file, but you can attach PDFs or documents or whatever you want to the campaign page. For example, imagine that you can use the PDF file as the target of the CTA button when they fill the form and click the button, they can just get downloaded that PDF, and everything is handled in the same place, and you don't need to put it on Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever, because the PDF is already there. And A/B testing. Who knows what is A/B testing? Probably you heard about it. That's great. Later we will take a closer look, because in the last 48 hours, just before we arrived here, we did some improvement, and actually it's not future planning anymore because it's working. And of course, more predefined paragraph types, tab-bit content, where your user can switch on a horizontal tabs to which one they want to see, and slider automatically switching images or whatever on the regular timing. That would be nice to put in-place edits, but that's a very far future plan, because in-place edits has a logical conflict with the version tracking. I mean the revision control. So we are really thinking about how can we put it together that the editor edits something on the page and a new revision created somehow in the background, but it cannot be on the background, so somehow they need to submit the form. So even Drupal core does not solve this problem. And animation is a superstar nowadays, so of course we want to add more animations. But now just let me to have some minutes, because we still have some time, to talk about this A/B test UI module that we also contributed back to Drupal.org. It has nothing to do with Period itself, because it's a separate module. We just thought that the very similar background of these two modules has, and very similar the target audience that we promote these modules. So why not put together and see that how they will like it? And now I just show that what it's about. For those who are not really familiar with the term, what the marketers call A/B testing, when you have one piece of content, but it has two variations, and one portion of your visitors randomly receives variation A, and other portion of the visitors receives variation B, and actually they don't necessarily know about that there is an existing another variation, but anyway, they just believe that this is the content. So in the Drupal terms, actually there are two nodes, but served on the same path, and we built it on top of a great module called A/B Test GS. It does the magic with this figuring out that which visitor session, which variation should receive, and stores a cookie in the client computer that remembers that once this person saw only the variation A, so every time this person comes from this machine, I always have to provide them variation A. Yes, this is somehow cheating, you can say, because there is a variation B, but anyway, this A/B testing is, as the name says, it's testing. So it's not about being the truth and trying to of course you can try to be honest, but there is some cheat in the background, because that's the nature of A/B testing, that you are switching randomly two variations of the same content. And of course, later you have the analytics, and you can compare that, wow, this green button is clicked twice as much as the red button, so okay, then we say the designers always use blue color for the buttons. So how to set up such a test case with our module? Here you can see the admin interface as you see previously. Remember the Drupal 7. This is the header that I opened a couple of minutes ago. And we call it, this will be the variation A. Let's say the base content. As you can see, the URL path, it has nothing at the end. It's just simply the path of the node. Then we clone this node into a second one. If you have node clone on your site already installed, and it's very easy, If you don't have, then you can just copy and paste in separate browser tab and create a second node entity actually, and give the name of variation B, let's say, and append some suffix to the end of the pass to help our job to compare that what they are, which one. And when you save, you will see the two different node entities, nothing magic yet. And when you open the admin UI of this module, here you see the list of the test cases. One row is one test case, one comparison of a pair of multiple passes. So we just add one new test case, and here you can see that the base URL that we call A, it has nothing at the end, and the variation B, it has the B at the end of the path. And we also added some names of the thing that I can point with this one. So as you can see that we added the name of this, that's great. Here you can see that some memo for your editors that what is test, what was the changes actually. Here we added the Google Analytics ID just to remind the editors that which profile they are measuring into, and the shortcut link to their reporting page, so they can easily jump to there and see that how it's performing. And when you save the test case, get back to the list where it's just a regular workflow as Drupal works. But of course, now when you can check everything when you test something, open an incognito window of your browser and just type the base URL the first time. Okay, you will see one of the versions, close it, open again, separate, new incognito window.